So this evening, the observance night, and I think it's getting, this is the winter solstice. So it should be around this time anyway, the shortest day of the year and the longest night. So from now on the days should get longer, the nights shorter. So just to reflect on this, this is the sense world that we're experiencing right now. The physical bodies that are sitting here, being aware of it as the feeling of sensations, pleasure, pain, pressure, heat and cold, or whatever thoughts, memories, emotions, conditions that you're experiencing in your mind at this time. The changing, like the changing of the seasons, the day and night, the senses, the body, the realm, everything is that we're experiencing this time is the sense realm through consciousness. So this is just a reflection on the way it is. It's not a statement on it being good or bad or anything else. It's just a noticing, observing. No comment about whether the shortest day of the year or the longest day of the year, which is better. We might have our preferences, personal preferences, but that has nothing to do with the way it is. It's just the way it is that at this time here, at this place, on this planet, the day is short and the nights are long. So this is like reflecting on the way it is. So Dhamma, this word Dhamma is the truth of the way it is. Being the knower of Dhamma. If we don't do this, then we're caught up into our own, if we don't like winter time, we don't like short days, and we don't like long nights, and we want eternal spring and sunshine and blue skies, and neither too hot nor too cold, then these are maybe personal preferences that we have, but that's not the way it is. But if we don't reflect in this way, then we tend to complain, grumble, resent things because we don't like the cold. If we don't like the cold, then we want something that we're not having. So this is the way the Buddha was pointing to, just a way of exploring, investigating experience within this form as a human individual. The truth of the way it is. Now, modern society, I'm from a society, cultural background, where it's based on how things should be. And so it's like the American culture is based on ideals of how things should be. So it's quite altruistic, and the ideals are very good. But ideals are not the way things are. Ideals are created in our mind. They can be very beautiful, but conditioned realm is not an ideal. It's like this. You have birth, and that is the cause for death, the law of karma. Birth and death are, if you have one, you have the other. Where we like birth, but we fear death. So when babies are born, we think, oh, babies are beautiful, we love babies, and we're happy, and we ooh and awe and get all carried away with our delight in a newborn child. And then when you're an old person, nobody does that anymore. So they don't think, isn't Ajahn Sumedho cute? But when I was born, I assumed that that's what my mother thought. But that's just the way it is. Getting old is like this. The body is aging. Youth and health and vigor, isn't it? These are beautiful romance, adventure, excitement. These are the pleasures of life. So what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, have it pleasurable, beautiful, exciting, interesting, fascinating. But these are changing conditions. So the other side of the condition is that what is interesting will be boring eventually, or what fascinates us and excites us is boring later on. And so as meditators, we're contemplating this. The whole aim of Buddhist meditation is to be the observer, the knower of the way it is. So it's not just trying to create interesting, fascinating, inspiring mental states or pleasurable, beautiful experiences that we would like to have or that we long for, but so much of our life has to bear with the other side, with the aging process, with pain, with sickness, boredom, disinterest, despair, resentment, anger, and all the other, the negative side of conditioned phenomena. So that's why we take refuge in this traditional way of thinking. Buddha Dhamma Sangha, this is taking refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha, is the willingness to put yourself on that edge between the created and the uncreated, the point of intersection of the timeless with time. And that's what T.S. Eliot's in the quartets. He says the point of intersection between the timeless and time. So mindfulness, being mindful, is that point of intersection. And that the Buddha emphasized this word. Mindfulness is translated sati sampajanya. Sati sampajanya is a Pali word, generally translated as mindfulness or awareness. The awakened conscious moment, here and now, being awake and aware of the way it is. So it's not about cultural preferences, emotional feelings, ideals, or anything else, but beginning to awaken and recognize and appreciate the human ability to be aware and awake. Now we all have that potential. All human beings have this potential for enlightenment, for awakened knowing, for seeing Dhamma, for being liberated from delusion. This is not about personal abilities or cultural attitudes or even religious ones. The Buddha, is an ancient religion, but the Buddha's teaching is, back in ancient India or modern Britain, is pointing at the same thing. The point of intersection between the timeless and time. So time, then, is the conditions that we're experiencing. Time is the It's nighttime. It's winter solstice. It's the seasons changing. It's seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, feeling, emotions, psychic phenomena, previous life memories, past memories, memories of yesterday, views and opinions, ideals, right and wrong, good and bad, high and low, heaven and hell. All this is about time. Birth and death is about time. Time is the conditioned realm. The body is about time. Your human body is a time condition. And so when we cultivate awareness, it means that we're actually positioning ourselves at that point of intersection, the timeless. Then you can't describe. You can only recognize or realize through paying attention. The more you try to think about the timeless or the deathless or the unconditioned, the more confused you become. When you try to figure out what is the timeless, or the unborn, uncreated, unconditioned, or nibbana, or anatta, no self, or the timeless, or the deathless, you'll get your brain into a twist. You'll just create more and more mental confusion. Because language itself, thought itself, is time. Thinking is about time. It's a condition. Thinking is conditioned. So trying to think about the timeless is impossible, isn't it? That's why you end up confused. And just like listening to people discussing, on the BBC about God. What is there God, or do you believe in God, or there isn't any God? When you're trying to think and define that which is beyond thought and definition, or the timeless, or I assume that's what God really means, ultimately. It must be that which is unconditioned, unborn, uncreated. This is just how I see it, because the word itself tends to be bound into definitions. It's personified, anthropomorphized. So you have a God is a kind of old man, patriarchal male up in the sky, is a childlike view of that. But I'm sure that behind all religion, all conventional religions, is the same. It's about the timeless, the deathless, the uncreated, the unborn, which the Buddha said you cannot define or describe, but you can recognize through awareness. To be fully aware, then to be completely aware in the moment, it's the point of letting go of the condition. If you're always getting caught in your thinking process, or your emotions, or opinions and views, then you're bound into the time element, the realm of birth and death, the suffering that we experience through binding ourselves to changing conditions, changing phenomena. Maybe we would like to have permanent happiness and permanent security from the conditioned realm. And so it's a kind of hopeless wish, because that's not the way it is. Conditioned phenomena can only change. As we can see now in the kind of world problems with the economy. Somebody gave me a Newsweek magazine as a cover, with the figure, the dollar sign, and then it had 4 and then 12 zeros after it. What is that? $4 trillion is what is needed to get out of this economy crash. What, can you imagine $4 trillion and where we might find such a thing? Or is this possible, or is this another human creation of the mind? Trillion is, billion is more than I can manage. A million now seems pretty like nothing. They talk in billions and trillions. But these are words, thoughts, concepts, and yet these do affect us. Economy crash, credit crunch, or what would seem safe, or this idea of progress and development. We'll all become richer and healthier and happier as we have more money and we get what we want, and our economies will develop into global economy where we'll be rid of poverty and on like this, and create a society, a perfect society where everything is ideal or the way it should be. But the Buddha pointed to the way it is, the changingness, the arising and ceasing, the beginning and ending. If something is progressing, it can't progress forever and ever. Progress reaches a peak and then it goes the other direction, degenerates. So maybe we're at a peak, or maybe we're over the peak now, where the whole illusion of free market capitalism and so forth is now on the other side. It's degenerating, falling apart. So this is this is the way things are. This is natural. Now we're trying to blame Gordon Brown for it, or thinking that who can we blame? George Bush. I like to blame everything on George Bush personally, but that's just an opinion. And this is just the way things are. And for a Buddhist meditator, we're not not trying to blame anybody or think that it should have been otherwise. We can learn from it, but the main thing to learn really is the way it is, to see it in terms of Dhamma. Now that seeing then is through awareness, mindfulness. The word Buddha itself means awakened consciousness in a human form. So you had the Gautama, the Buddha, ancient India, 2,551 years ago, the kind of prophet, the sage, the enlightened one that started this tradition that we're carrying on within this traditional teaching, the Four Noble Truths, and the Sangha life, monastic life. So that's also time-bound. But this tradition then kind of has an ability to carry the teaching through the various arisings and cessations of kingdoms, of political systems, economy, flourishing economies and crashing ones, and empires, and all the rest, because we're still, pretty much within the same traditional style. The form hasn't, has managed to survive through all the other changing conditions based on, particular cultural attitudes and situations through tribalism, kingdoms, empires, colonial systems, developments and flourishing of civilization and its falling apart and degenerating. So see, that this is a time where this particular way of looking is very much sought after, because it allows us to learn from the way things are, rather than spend our lives trying to create, through idealism, the perfect relationship, the perfect society, the perfect system. It doesn't prevent us in developing or improving, but that's not our main purpose. We're not here to try to create perfect conditions, but we can certainly, do the best we can with the conditions we find ourselves with. So the human bodies that we have, whatever state your body is in, whatever age it might be, or its health, or whatever, that's not really a problem in terms of awakened attention, of refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. So being physically disabled, or blind, or deaf, or deformed, or sick, or short, or tall, or whatever, it's not. These are not problems in themselves, unless we want them to be otherwise. So the Buddha emphasized in the First Noble Truth of dukkha, this suffering, wanting something we don't have is suffering, isn't it? Wanting something, when I want something I don't have, and I'm not awake, I'm not aware of that, I'm caught in my desire to get something that I don't have, it's like this. Now through meditation, I've been able to develop an awareness around wanting something I don't have. So after all these years in monastic life, they can still be aware, they still want things I don't have, but there's an awareness of it. Where before I meditated, I was just caught into it, resenting the fact that maybe I couldn't get what I wanted, or striving desperately to get something that I don't have. And when I don't get what I want, then I'm disappointed, angry, upset, resentful. So not getting what I want, and wanting what I don't have, and not wanting what I have, and all these are to be recognized as attachments to conditions. This dukkha then arises through this heedless, blind attachment to the changing conditions of the body, of the emotions, of the thoughts, memories. You see, so that notice that it's not trying to create anything, like a perfect system, but to use the conditions we find ourselves in for awareness. So then the recognition that each one of us is, we talk in this way of working through our karma, one's karma. Now that can sound very personal, and in some ways it's quite deluding to talk like that, but also has a point that each one of us has different habits, different ways of thinking, different conditions to deal with. Physically, culturally, socially, identities with race, with gender, with age, with the generation you're born into, with culture. All these are different. Nobody has all the same conditions. But that which is aware of the conditions, that's the same. That's the point of intersection between the timeless and time. So mindfulness then is the only way that an individual human being can transcend the condition, not deny it or reject it, but through that point of intersection we can discern the timeless from the time. So this is what sati sampajanya satipanya is about. Discernment, knowing the time bound is this way. Attachment to to conditioned phenomena out of heedlessness, out of not understanding, having no insight, no realization of the timeless, then we are caught, we're kind of trapped into the time-bound conditions, the habits we have. Have you noticed how, as you become increasingly aware of just the way your thinking process works, your emotional habits, and you can get so caught, so stuck into a cycle of thinking, of obsessions with memories or feelings or emotions. Many of you, especially the Sangha, monastic Sangha, who've gone on retreats, silent retreats for any length of time. How long can you stay still in a kuti in the hammer wood, in complete bliss, without some obsession taking you over? So some of the obsessions can be, quite, others are very boring. So I found myself many times, just sitting in a forest, being alone, and then, feeling some peace, and then suddenly the mind will become obsessed with something. And then the tendency to resist the obsession, or try to get caught into the obsession, and be or the desire to get rid of the obsession. So wanting to destroy the obsessive thinking process, or to get caught into it, just go around and around, wake up in the morning, blah blah blah, in the afternoon, evening, wherever you go, this obsession takes you over, and then you resent it, and do anything to get rid of it. Sleep a lot, or distract yourself in some way to get out of it. So this is where the mindfulness is the only way we can really have perspective on obsessive thoughts, emotional habits, cares, worries that are common to the human condition. Human beings are thinking creatures. I always, even the word man in English, M-A-N, probably traces back to Sanskrit, mano, thinking, a thinking being. So, we're thinking beings. So we do suffer a lot, where if you don't think, just think, or just, of not thinking, not having a self, not having any worries at all. We'd like to maybe only have positive thoughts about love and kindness and happiness and goodness and beauty and truth, and we inspire ourselves with these marvelous kind of concepts. But also there's the other side, the loss, the resentment, the unfairness, the injustice, the degeneration, the rotting of corpses, the decay, and on like this. This is the side of life we don't like to think about. How many of you like to go and watch corpses decay, or things like this? There's monks in Thailand. We're encouraged to do this as Buddhists, samanas to observe the process of decay of animals, or it's difficult to watch a human body decay, but sometimes I've seen decaying human bodies, and of course it's repulsive, and because it stinks, it smells bad, it's putrid, one is repelled and turned away from it. But there's an awareness of that repulsion, of not wanting an unpleasant odor, of a decaying, putrid corpse is ugly and smells bad and it's repulsive, and we don't want it, don't like it. But there's an awareness of this. So the whole aim of asupagamattan, or awareness of the unbeautiful in monastic meditation, is to bring attention to the very, because this is natural condition, isn't it? Decay, human bodies decaying, animals, corpses decaying, the decaying of leaves. This is just the natural flow of life. And we can see here in England, the changing of the seasons is so obvious. In the springtime, now everything is old now, isn't it? There's no leaves on the trees, no flowers. The leaves that have fallen off and are decaying leaves. And long nights and short days, and it's cold, and so these tend to bring up negative mental states. Or, as I've found, living in northern European climate, actually it's quite peaceful if you don't create an aversion to it. And I began to notice the winters, having lived so many years in hot countries like Thailand, Malaysia, where the changing of the seasons isn't so marked, so obvious. And then here, where you have so many deciduous forests, trees that, not like evergreen trees, so much evergreen or fir trees, but trees that lose all their foliage every year. So you look out onto the field and you see all these branches from oak trees and poplar trees and so forth. And I remember when I first noticed this, I thought, that's quite ugly, trees without leaves. I don't like trees without leaves. Trees should have leaves on them. And being aware of that was an opinion out of conditioning, because, even in where I'm from, in Washington State, Northwest, it was you had a lot of evergreen trees. So even in the wintertime, you still had this sense of lush foliage. But here, if you notice, it's deciduous trees, barren branches. And as you stop reacting with aversion or criticism of it, you begin to see the beauty of it, of bleakness, of coldness, of grayness, of long nights and short days. And you're changing from just reacting to being averse, critical, comparing it with another place where everything is an eternal spring, beautiful flowers, perfect temperature is an ideal. To just being with the way it is, whatever way it is, because sometimes it's really quite unpleasant. Cold, bleak, chilly winter, wet days. It's not physically pleasant experience for us. That it isn't, it's not something that brings joy to the heart. But as we stop as we begin to take our refuge in awareness of it, we don't create the suffering by wanting it to be otherwise. So then our ability to learn from decaying corpses, things going wrong, crashing economies, credit crunches, loss of the loved, failures and disappointments, and all the rest that is part of a human experience. We don't create the suffering around it because we are in that we have established a confident stability within that point of intersection between the timeless and time. So this is what the Buddha was pointing to as being liberated. Because even in the time of the Buddha, he got old. After he was fully enlightened, his body got old and he had pain and all the rest, just like anyone else. He didn't escape old age, sickness, and death. When you read the suttas, he had to deal with so many, being blamed for things he didn't do, being a jealous cousin, people trying to kill him, and all kinds of terrible things happened to the Buddha after his enlightenment. So it's not like one is getting out of one's karma. So you become enlightened and then you just live in a state of perpetual bliss and your body just, gets younger and more beautiful, as we would would like that as an idea. And you kind of transmute it into radiant light. It would be some kind of legend or fairy tale. But it's more, in terms of Dhamma, we have this refuge in the timeless, the deathless. So our relationship to the time-bound and the death-bound condition is no longer liking or disliking it, but knowing it is like this. And this is the perfection of a human lifetime. And in this human state that we're in, with all its pain and suffering that we experience, is this ability that the Buddha pointed to realize, to learn, to see and discern. The time-bound is this. It's my thoughts. It's my feelings. It's my memories. It's my body. It's pleasure and pain, birth and death, meeting and parting, success and failure, praise and blame. So when you recognize this, then you're not frightened anymore. Because what does fear come from? But it's about, it's a kind of even primordial emotion. This is a fear realm we're living in. Notice the animal realm. It's the squirrels at Amaravati. The rats and the mice and the birds. It's about survival and fear. Because we are in these very vulnerable forms, the animal kingdom, the human realm, which is vulnerable and changing. It's sensitive. So we experience sensitivity, which does not mean pleasure particularly. It means both pleasure and pain. And so on the fear level, we worry, we're frightened, we're anxious about life, because even when the economy is doing well and we're healthy and young and beautiful, we know it's not going to stay this way. Everything's fine right now. It just couldn't be better, but you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and therefore, anything is possible in the future. The time bound, isn't it? Loss. We all have to experience loss of the loved. And as we live a lifetime, we see that our parents get old, senile, die. Loss of friends, loss of all kinds of things that we love is a part of human experience. But we're seeing it now from discernment rather than from personal desire, personal obsessions, personal ideals. Or through fear. Because even in an affluent society, when the economy was burgeoning here in Britain, people were still worried just as much. Because the future is the unknown, and that means anything could happen. What if I get cancer? What if I lose my health? What if I lose everything that I depend on? This is a possibility that we all dread, losing what we like, what we love, what we depend on. The security of an economy or a political system. Because all these are conditions that are subject to change. You cannot find permanency in any political system, economic system, culture, religious convention, in another person. You can't find security through finding the right person, because that person is working out their karma, which might go in a very different way than yours. How can we force the conditioned realm to do what we want? And that, of course, is like megalomania, isn't it? It's madness when we try to control the conditioned realm, to create an illusory idea that I'm kind of God that can force everything, control everything, and will everything to be what I want. That's madness. But the Buddhist attitude of awakened attention to Dhamma, to the way it is. Now, as you pursue this and develop, cultivate awareness, it's a natural state. It's not about me as some great meditator, or me because been a monk for so long that I've been able to develop and in a very good meditation practice. That's how you might project onto me, that I'm somebody who's developed and cultivated a high state of meditation. What happens is more like you're letting go of attachment. It's not, I can't claim it as on a personal level. You just see all that is personal is conditioned. Personality, my desires, my cultural prejudices, my views and opinions, there are conditions. So it's not about me as a person attaining, it's about seeing through the illusion of me and attainment. Through letting go, through non-attachment, then the ability to discern from that point of intersection with the timeless, with time. Because this is, we still have to live out our lifetime in this form, the human form that you have, which is a time-bound condition. So it gets old and gets illnesses and will die. So the point of intersection of the timeless with time is the mindfulness then. So then that is a natural, it's not a created kind of samadhi state where you control your mind and by rejecting everything else. It's the opposite. It's opening to embrace everything at this moment, to allow everything to be what it is. You're no longer trying to control and deny or get rid of anything, whether it's pleasure, pain, noise, confusion, silence, heat or cold, whatever. It all that you're experiencing now is the way it is. That awareness of the way it is then is the point of intersection. And so then the discerning, as you trust that more, recognize it and appreciate that, then the timeless is reality, is real. The deathless, the timeless, the unborn, uncreated, this is the real. And as you affirm that and discern it and appreciate it more and more, then that reality, that's real. And so you realize the deathless, not as a person. It's not that if you claim it as some kind of personal attainment. That kind of thinking doesn't work anymore. It doesn't make sense to claim it as some kind of personal achievement, because it's letting go of the personal to what is real, what is true, rather than live in the illusory world of the conditions of personality, of emotions, habits, thoughts, identity with the body. So the deathless is not some kind of abstract metaphysical concept. The deathless, the timeless, the unborn, uncreated, the non-self, Nibbana, these are not just super-duper metaphysical abstract terms. It's reality. Because the discerning ability then is discerning, knowing the deathless is this here and now. It's real. And in this reality then the conditions arise and cease according to their nature. The body is the way it is, the seasons change, the winter solstice, the days of the week, the gain and loss, the economy flourishing and crashing, praise, blame, success and failure in the world, all these happen to us that we are aware of it, but our refuge is no longer in the uncertain, the unstable, the changing conditions. That if that's what we hold to and identify with, we are terribly disappointed with life, because we've all got to lose everything at the end. When your body dies, all that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. We reflect on that as monastics. We say, all that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will be mine and pleasing forever and ever. It'll lead to terrible disillusionment. You might long for that, but that's not the way things are. But death and old age, and this is not suffering. This is not the First Noble Truth about, unless we identify with these, we don't want our bodies to die and we don't want them to be sick or get old or suffer in any way. That's the suffering. The natural aging process of the body, whatever way it goes, we can bear that, even chronic illnesses or diseases or disabilities. These are, if we recognize or realize, have this discerning ability, our refuge is in the deathless, in the unconditioned. So our relationship to the conditioned is no longer personal, no longer do we attach to it out of ignorance, but we can bear with it, even if it changes in ways that are painful or unpleasant, because that's the way it is. That's what we learn from. So I encourage you that this is if you keep pursuing this way of reflecting, you can find for yourself. You have to realize this for yourself. My talking like this is just kind of encourage you to practice it, and learning to trust yourself more, to develop, and not to always let yourself, your critical self, believe in your own illusions about yourself. Because it's so easy for us to be self-critical, to see ourselves through negative perceptions. I'm not good enough, I'm not wise enough, I'm not that. It's so easy to believe all these things, or that we limit ourselves by the belief in oftentimes our critical perceptions. So that's why I'm encouraging you not to do that. Don't believe anything your thinking mind tells you about your ability or lack of ability, about your, whatever you think you are, you're not that. If you think you're the best and you're an enlightened Buddha, you're not that. If you think you're hopeless sinner, you're not that either. Whatever you think, or if you think, I'm just an ordinary guy, I'm not bad, I'm not particularly a saint, but I'm okay. That's not what you are either. There's no way you'll find yourself by trying to define yourself through any means whatsoever. But whatever you think you are, you can be aware that is a condition changing. The thought, I am a good man is like this. The thought, I am a bad man is like this. There's nothing permanent about the thinking. But one can be aware of thinking. You're not a thought. You're not what you think. You're not a concept. You're not a personality, a body. You're not a man or a woman, a monk or a nun, or a layperson, or anything. Buddhist. You're not even a Buddhist. Then what am I then? And then if I say, well, you're really nothing, then you think, what a hopeless religion that is. I'm a child of God, or I'm a free spirit to love, and that you're not that either. So once you let go of conditions, good or bad, then you realize what liberation is. It's natural, peaceful, and it allows us to bear with the karma that we have to experience in the forms that we're living in. So it's not like praying to God to save me from all pain and suffering, but if pain and loss and that part of what I have to experience till the death of this body, And that's fine. It's not, I can bear that. I learn from that, from the way things happen, the arising and ceasing of conditions. So I'll be leaving for Thailand on Monday for 6 weeks and return here on the 3rd of February. And I will I'll just stay in Ubon most of the time and attend the memorial service for Luang Por Cha at Wat Pa Nong Papong, Wat Nana Chat, and so forth. Go to Chiang Mai, give my annual retreats in Chiang Mai. And here you can, you have winter's retreat starts in the second week of January. So see this as a really, something to, it's a wonderful opportunity to have 3 months for the ordained Sangha, just to devote yourself to this, because the lay community, they come forth in a very generous way too. Kind of do the work in the monastery so that the monastic Sangha can cultivate. Because it's through this opportunity to devote yourself just to this, to awareness, to where it's, you get beyond doubt and delusion. You see that even the subtle attachments, subtle habits begin to you notice. And that which notices and is awake and aware, that is your refuge. That's Buddha Dhamma Sangha, the point of intersection between the timeless and time, and the ability within the human form to discern the timeless, to awaken to the real. The reality is yourself, really, not your body, not your sense of, not as a person, but it is the nature, it's Dhamma. This is, putting it in absurd English terminologies, that's what you really are. But that doesn't make sense in the long run. You have to let go of even the I am the deathless, the ultimate truth, can be another delusion we create. So that's why it's not a matter of trying to find out who you are or what you are. It's discerning that what you're not is the conditions that you tend to think you are or believe you are. So you don't have to find yourself, you just have, you have to let go of the illusions you have about yourself. And that would be the liberation, that would be nibbana, that would be freedom from delusion within this human form. So I offer this for your reflection.